nice to finally meet you. How's everything been coming along?
Um, it's been very busy, I will be honest, but lots of resources. So I'm never at a lack of where to turn to if I need help. So, but yes, I'm on day 3 of the 6-month schedule, I believe. But I have also started to incorporate the 4-month schedule because I'm contemplating trying to take the February test so that I can use April as my backup date and then have the summer to apply, put my applications together and stuff like that. So I'm working on sequencing games right now. And yeah, I am having some trouble with counter positives. But other than that, I would say logic games is going very well. I'm slow. That's very clear where my biggest thing comes in because I did take a diagnostic test in the beginning and I like wasn't even able to finish half of the questions, I would say, in the logic game section. But my timing is getting better once I started using the different forms of diagramming. Because originally I was doing where I instinctually would write place 1, 2, 3, like 1 through 7 or whatever. And so then I would get the answers right, but it would take me probably 20 minutes to do one question. So that just wasn't sustainable. So then that's when I signed up for your course and I found your diagrams and they make 100% more sense. If I'm trying to make the February test date deadline and it's mostly my timing that's off, like what would you recommend, like hours a day? Because this is the only thing I'm doing. But I don't want to burn myself out because February is like a little bit more than 4 months away.
Yeah. Yeah. I would recommend max 5 to 6 hours a day. Absolute max. Maybe 4 to 5 is better. Of course, you're taking breaks throughout and you want to make sure you have plenty of time for quality of life things because burnout is real, especially when you're able to study full time. So set hard limits for yourself, block it off in your schedule, and also block off the breaks and other things you want to do.
Yeah. And then in terms of like, if I want to like really address this, because I know in the schedule that you sent me, which was the 6-month schedule, it's like everything's untimed in the beginning. I am nervous that like I'm not, because I did take I did a conditional sequencing problem today and it took me 9 minutes, which is still like over the thing. So how—
Well, hold up a second. 9 minutes when your average is 8:45, right? So we're talking about 15 seconds here.
Yeah, but I didn't get time to like go back and check my work. It was like I barely finished at 9 minutes. So if I'm taking the test, I could imagine that taking me more like 10 minutes because I am not a great test taker. So I am really worried about the factor of time. So just, do you have any recommendations in terms of things that I could factor into the course schedule in addition to watching the lesson videos and following with the daily routines? Like how can I add time things into there? Should I do timed prep tests, timed sections? Yeah,
great questions. First, I want to stick on the timing individual games though, because I never recommend timing individual games. 8:45 is an average. So some games will be easier and ideally will take 6 minutes. Once you really work at that game type, it's a place to get to. The other thing is some games will take longer. Some games can take 10, 11, 12 minutes because they're hard. Conditional sequencing is harder than regular sequencing. So it's natural that it might take a little bit longer than 8:45. That being said, of course, you do want to ideally have time to check over things if necessary. And you always want to improve timing to whatever extent you can. And the very simple way to do that is to add in some timed logic game sections. I don't have you do timed exams until later in the process because why take a timed exam including reading comp when you haven't touched reading comp yet or haven't learned enough about reading comp to build that foundation? But once you've covered games with broad strokes covering the major types, then of course you could add in timed logic game sections, and I have that in the schedule as well.
Okay, fabulous. Timed logic sections. Yes, that makes perfect sense. Okay, good. Yeah, so then my other question would be in terms of like, let's say that I complete the 4-month schedule and I'm still not at where my score would be. How would I basically then backtrack, look at all the work that I did and identify like how to then pull out the areas that I did worst in? Do you know what I mean? Because I will self-study for something. I'll figure out everything that I know. I'll think that I'm really, really prepared. I'll go in and I'll realize that, oh, I actually made a bunch of ridiculous errors that looking back on it, I know exactly why this is wrong. But on the day or whenever I sat down to take a prep test, I made these mistakes. How do you like retrain your brain to stop doing things like that? Like sometimes I still make mistakes in sequencing problems, how I diagram them, because I'm diagramming them how I used to and not how I should be sometimes. And yeah, so sometimes things like that. So looking back on, let's say I'm at the point in which I'm taking time prep tests. At that point, how do you really zero in and fix problematic areas when you're on a much shorter time scale? Because right now I'm in this area where I'm in a place where I could dive in deep anywhere, but that won't be the case forever.
Yeah, well, it's all about your review process and what your review process looks like. And so figuring out where your misunderstanding is coming from, if it's misreading a rule, if it's not having the proper kind of setup, if it's not approaching the questions in the right order or maximizing use of previous work or making inferences up front. Those are things you always want to be looking at after you complete a game.
So how much, okay, so if you were to, I know I read this in your article, mostly it's understanding where the error comes from. But a lot of the time when I understand where the error comes from, I already immediately understand why that is the case. And then my brain doesn't quite make the correction. It just immediately assumes the role of, oh, well, the correct answer is blank, so nothing else makes sense, obviously. But then when I look at the problem again, my brain starts at the bottom, I start my logic reasoning, and then I get to the wrong answer and I make the same mistake twice. So how do I change that?
A lot of it's going to be repetition and then focusing enough on the exact process and where exactly your misunderstanding came from. If you focus on it deeply enough, then doing the same problem an hour later or a day later or a week later, you would catch yourself ideally.
Okay. Yeah. So just repeat, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Those are all the questions I have. Do you have any like major tips in general for anyone studying for the LSAT in this time? And you would also say that it's likely going to be the LSAT Flex in February and April, probably, right?
So two things. First off, LSAC actually announced already that February and April are both going to be Flex.
Oh, fabulous.
So you know those are going to be Flex.
Yeah, so they're posting prep tests for LSAT Flex soon,
They've
right?
posted two already. They posted a Flex version of Prep Test 73, and they've also posted a sample of the May 2020 LSAT Flex.
Okay, so the sample May 2020 LSAT Flex would be like the last prep test I take before I do the test date?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are all of my questions. I'm just keeping my head down until February, and I hope to be ready for the February LSAT Flex so that I can hopefully try again in April if it doesn't go as planned. But yeah, I mean, overall, these resources have been phenomenal. I am not the type of person who's going to exceed in the classroom of someone else giving me deadlines. So this is perfect.
Fantastic. I'm so glad you found everything helpful. Please keep in touch and let me know if you need anything moving forward.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
You too. Bye, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.